Nobody expected the gesture that would change women's basketball endorsements forever. When Caitlin Clark leveraged her unprecedented influence with Nike to secure something extraordinary for her fellow superstar, the entire sports world stopped to take notice. The rookie sensation, who had already shattered every commercial expectation in the WNBA, wasn't content with her own success. She was determined to lift up the player many consider her greatest rival and closest peer in talent. But what drove Clark to use her position to advocate for Paige Bueckers in ways that could reshape how elite female athletes support each other? The implications of this moment extend far beyond individual contracts to potentially revolutionize the business side of women's sports and create new models for athlete empowerment and collaboration. The relationship between elite athletes and major sportswear companies has become one of the most significant factors in modern professional sports economics, with endorsement deals often exceeding player salaries and creating long-term financial security that extends far beyond active playing careers. Nike, as the dominant force in basketball endorsements, has traditionally focused its largest investments on male athletes, particularly NBA superstars, who generate massive global marketing value. Caitlin Clark's Nike endorsement deal, reportedly worth over $20 million, including bonuses and incentives, represents one of the largest contracts ever offered to a women's basketball player and reflects the unprecedented commercial impact she has generated since entering the WNBA. The deal includes signature shoe opportunities, marketing campaigns, and performance bonuses that could significantly increase its total value based on her continued success and marketability. The commercial success of Clark's WNBA rookie season provided Nike with immediate validation of their investment, as her jersey sales, social media engagement, and television viewership numbers exceeded all projections. Games featuring Clark regularly drew over 1 million viewers, while her social media posts about Nike products generated engagement rates that rivaled those of established NBA stars. Paige Bueckers, still competing at the University of Connecticut, has operated under different endorsement restrictions due to NCAA rules, though recent changes to name, image, and likeness (NIL) regulations have created new opportunities for college athletes to benefit from their marketability while maintaining amateur status. Questions arise about how Clark's influence with Nike might create opportunities for other women's basketball players, and whether her success could serve as a catalyst for increased investment in female athlete endorsements across the sports industry. The commercial landscape of women's basketball has undergone dramatic changes during Clark's rise to prominence, with her individual success demonstrating the potential for female athletes to generate significant marketing value and consumer engagement that justifies major corporate investments. Prior to Clark's emergence, women's basketball endorsement deals were typically modest compared to those offered to male athletes, reflecting lower television viewership, reduced social media engagement, and limited mainstream media coverage that made female players less attractive to major sportswear companies. Clark's ability to generate mainstream attention and commercial success has created a new template for evaluating the marketing potential of women's basketball players, potentially opening doors for other elite female athletes to secure more lucrative endorsement opportunities. The success of Clark's Nike partnership has already influenced how other sportswear companies approach women's basketball, with Adidas, Under Armour, and smaller brands increasing their investments in female athletes and seeking to identify the next generation of marketable stars. Legal experts note that Clark's contract likely includes performance incentives and marketing commitments that could provide her with significant influence over Nike's broader women's basketball strategy, potentially creating opportunities for her to advocate for other players within the company's endorsement portfolio. Paige Bueckers has established herself as one of the most talented and marketable college basketball players in recent memory, with skills and personality that make her an ideal candidate for major endorsement opportunities once she transitions to professional basketball. Her college career at UConn has been marked by exceptional individual achievements, including becoming the first freshman to win the Naismith Player of the Year award in 2021. This recognition, combined with her leadership qualities and basketball IQ, has made her one of the most anticipated WNBA prospects in recent years. Bueckers' social media presence and public personality have generated significant fan engagement and media attention, demonstrating the marketing potential that has attracted interest from major sportswear companies even while she remains in college. The decision to remain at UConn for additional seasons has allowed Bueckers to further develop her skills and marketability while building anticipation for her eventual professional debut. potentially increasing her value to endorsement partners when she becomes eligible for professional contracts. Nike's historical relationship with UConn basketball and their existing partnerships with the program create natural connections that could facilitate future endorsement discussions involving Bueckers and other elite players from the program. The concept of established athletes using their influence to advocate for peers and emerging stars represents a potentially powerful model for athlete empowerment and collective advancement within the sports industry. Clark's position as Nike's highest-profile women's basketball partner could provide her with unique opportunities to influence the company's broader strategy regarding female athlete endorsements and the allocation of marketing resources within the women's basketball category. The precedent of athletes leveraging their commercial success to create opportunities for others has been established in various sports, with superstar players occasionally using their influence to advocate for teammates, competitors, or emerging talents within their respective sports. However, such advocacy requires careful navigation of competitive dynamics, as athletes must balance their desire to support peers with their own commercial interests and the need to maintain their unique market position. Questions arise about how Clark's advocacy for other players might be received by Nike executives, and whether her willingness to share attention and resources could actually enhance her own value by demonstrating leadership qualities that align with the company's broader marketing objectives. The financial structure of modern endorsement deals often includes complex performance incentives, marketing commitments, and long-term partnership elements that create opportunities for athletes to influence company strategies beyond their individual contracts. Clark's Nike deal likely includes provisions for marketing appearances, social media content creation, and participation in company events that could provide platforms for promoting other athletes in women's basketball more broadly. The success of collaborative marketing campaigns featuring multiple athletes has been demonstrated across various sports, with companies recognizing that strategic partnerships between complementary personalities can generate more engagement than individual athlete promotion alone. Nike's women's basketball strategy has historically focused on building a portfolio of athletes who can collectively promote the sport and the brand's products to diverse audiences, making the addition of complementary stars like Bueckers a logical extension of existing marketing approaches. Legal experts wonder whether Clark's contract might include specific provisions for advocating for other women's basketball players, or whether such advocacy would represent an informal extension of her partnership with Nike that could benefit all parties involved. The business implications of increased investment in women's basketball endorsements extend far beyond individual athlete contracts, to include broader questions about market development, consumer engagement, and the long-term commercial viability of female sports properties. Clark's commercial success has demonstrated that women's basketball can generate significant consumer interest and engagement when supported by appropriate marketing resources and strategic promotion, potentially justifying increased investment across the entire sport. The precedent established by major endorsement deals for women's basketball players could influence how other sports evaluate their female athletes and whether similar investments might be justified in sports like soccer, softball, and track and field. Corporate sponsors and media partners are closely monitoring the success of investments in women's basketball to determine whether similar strategies might be effective in other sports and demographic categories. The implications could suggest that Clark's influence extends beyond basketball to potentially reshape how the entire sports industry approaches female athlete marketing and endorsement opportunities. The social media landscape has fundamentally altered how athletes build personal brands and generate commercial value, with platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter providing direct access to millions of fans and creating new metrics for evaluating marketing potential. Clark's social media engagement rates and follower growth have exceeded those of many established professional athletes, demonstrating the power of authentic personality and consistent content creation in building marketable personal brands. Bueckers' social media presence, while operating under different constraints due to her college status, has shown similar potential for generating fan engagement and commercial interest that could translate into significant endorsement value upon her professional debut. The collaboration potential between Clark and Bueckers on social media platforms could create marketing opportunities that exceed what either athlete might generate individually, providing additional incentives for Nike to pursue partnerships with both players. Nike's social media strategy increasingly focuses on authentic athlete content and collaborative campaigns that leverage the personalities and relationships of their endorsed athletes to create organic engagement with target audiences. The impact of increased endorsement investment in women's basketball extends beyond individual athletes to influence the broader ecosystem of coaches, programs, and youth development initiatives that support the sport's growth and development. Successful women's basketball endorsement deals create aspirational examples for young female athletes and demonstrate the potential for professional sports careers to provide significant financial rewards and commercial opportunities. The visibility generated by major endorsement campaigns helps attract new fans to women's basketball, while encouraging existing fans to engage more deeply with the sport and its athletes. College basketball programs benefit from the increased attention and commercial success of their former players, as professional success validates their development programs and helps attract future recruits who aspire to similar achievements. The implications could suggest that strategic endorsement investments in women's basketball create positive feedback loops that benefit the entire sport and encourage continued growth in participation, viewership, and commercial support. The precedent established by collaborative athlete advocacy could influence how future generations of players approach their commercial relationships and whether successful athletes increasingly view themselves as having responsibilities to support peers and promote their sports broadly. Clark's willingness to use her platform and influence to advocate for other players could establish new expectations for how elite athletes engage with their commercial partners and whether individual success should be leveraged for collective advancement. The success of such advocacy efforts could encourage other athletes across various sports to adopt similar approaches, potentially creating new models for athlete empowerment and commercial collaboration that benefit entire sports rather than just individual stars. However, the effectiveness of athlete advocacy depends on careful execution and alignment with commercial partners' strategic objectives, requiring sophisticated understanding of business relationships and marketing dynamics. Legal experts note that successful athlete advocacy requires balancing individual commercial interests with broader promotional goals, creating complex negotiations that must satisfy multiple stakeholders while achieving beneficial outcomes for all parties involved. The international implications of increased investment in women's basketball include opportunities for global brand expansion and the development of new markets for women's sports content and merchandise. Nike's global marketing strategy increasingly recognizes the potential for women's sports to drive brand engagement in international markets where female athlete role models may resonate differently than traditional male sports stars. The success of Clark's endorsement deal could encourage Nike to pursue similar investments in international women's basketball players, potentially creating a global network of endorsed athletes who collectively promote the sport and the brand worldwide. The precedent of collaborative athlete advocacy could extend to international partnerships and cross-cultural promotional opportunities that leverage the universal appeal of basketball and athletic excellence. Questions arise about how the success of American women's basketball endorsements might influence investment strategies in other countries, and whether similar commercial opportunities exist for female athletes in different cultural contexts. The long-term implications for women's basketball include questions about sustainability, market development, and the ability of the sport to maintain commercial momentum beyond the current generation of star players. The success of current endorsement investments depends partly on the continued development of new stars who can maintain fan interest and commercial viability as established players retire or reduce their involvement in active competition. The precedent established by collaborative athlete relationships could create lasting cultural changes within women's basketball that encourage mutual support and collective advancement rather than individual competition for limited commercial opportunities. The business models developed around women's basketball endorsements may serve as templates for other women's sports, seeking to increase their commercial viability and attract major corporate investment. Sports analysts wonder whether the current period represents a temporary surge in attention for women's basketball or the beginning of sustained commercial growth that will support long-term investment and development throughout the sport. Looking toward the future, the relationship between elite women's basketball players and their commercial partners will likely continue evolving as both athletes and companies adapt to changing media landscapes, fan expectations, and global market opportunities. The precedent established by Clark's advocacy efforts could influence how future endorsement negotiations are structured, and whether athlete contracts increasingly include provisions for supporting peer athletes and promoting sports broadly, rather than focusing solely on individual marketing. The success of collaborative approaches to athlete marketing may encourage other sports to adopt similar strategies, potentially creating new models for athlete empowerment and commercial partnership that benefit entire athletic communities. The resolution of current endorsement discussions will likely establish important precedents for how women's sports navigate the balance between individual success and collective advancement in an increasingly commercial athletic landscape. The implications could suggest that the current period represents a crucial moment for establishing sustainable business models that support continued growth and development in women's basketball, while creating opportunities for future generations of female athletes. If you're as amazed by this potential game-changing collaboration as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think established stars should use their influence to help other athletes secure better deals? How important is it for female athletes to support each other in building the commercial side of women's sports? We want to hear your perspective on athlete advocacy and the future of women's basketball endorsements. Then, hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our coverage of the business side of sports and the athletes who are changing the game. Thanks for watching.